I want to walk you through a brief exercise. Think of an acquaintance, someone you recently met, maybe a coworker, a classmate, or even that person you say hi to each week at the local grocery store. Do you have that person in mind? Okay, now I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to respond with a simple yes or no. Do you know this person's gender? Do you know this person's ethnicity? Do you know this person's sexual orientation? Do you know whether this person is a veteran? And do you know whether this person has a disability? Take a moment to analyze your responses. Do you have more yeses or nos? My name is Charlie Scott, and this was an abbreviated version of an exercise that we did during the Day of Understanding at KPMG. The Day of Understanding had such a profound impact on me as a person and as a business professional that I want to share my story with you. Like so many of you, I served in the military, and my journey was probably very similar to yours. I stepped on the yellow footprints. I was screened and evaluated in one of the greatest equalizers, Officer Candidate School. I commissioned as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. I worked alongside my lieutenant brothers and sisters, learning the basics of being an officer of Marines. And then I was off to Mission Occupational Specialty School, where I learned how to become an effective infantry officer. And finally, the Fleet Marine Force. And after 2 deployments to Afghanistan and 7 years of service to our country, I transitioned to a career in business. When I think back on my time in the military, the words that come to mind are honor, courage, commitment, mission, and teamwork. During the first several years of my transition, I sighted in on a new mission. I was hyper-focused on managing my new civilian life, ramping up my career, passionately serving my clients, driving to closure task after task, business objective after business objective, all while in pursuit of promotion after promotion. Meanwhile, each year, KPMG hosts semi-annual town hall meetings across each of our 100 U.S. offices. These town hall meetings bring together our professionals from audit, tax, advisory, and the business process group. In these town hall meetings, we discuss the business's performance year to date, we raise awareness of global and local market trends, and we celebrate our firm's awesome culture. On December 7th, 2018, I had the opportunity to attend one of these town hall meetings in Atlanta, Georgia. I recall it was hosted at a very large hotel conference center space in downtown Atlanta. I was weary-eyed that Friday morning, but as the thousands of us entered that conference center space, I remember feeling a general buzz and excitement that seemed to fill the room. For on that day, we were participating in the Day of Understanding. For those of you that may not be familiar with the Day of Understanding, please allow me to provide some context. On December 7th, 2018, signatory companies for the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion, which is the largest CEO-driven business commitment to advancing diversity and inclusion in the workplace, took bold action by hosting day-long discussions. These discussions were intended to help organizations further embrace differences, to educate their people, and to build a more inclusive culture both inside and outside of our workplaces. One of the core commitments of the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion is to make our workplaces more trusting places to have complex and sometimes difficult conversations about diversity and inclusion. On December 7th, 2018, and the weeks following, KPMG hosted over 100 Day of Understanding sessions across 70 local offices, which drove participation from 5,800 employees and over 400 partners. KPMG's Day of Understanding sessions focused on increasing our understanding around differences, building more trusting work environments, improving collaboration and engagement, and enhancing our diversity and inclusion dialogue. Over the next hour, while I sat in the town hall meeting, I was overtaken by the heart-wrenching stories being shared by my colleagues. Some of their stories describe situations in their lives and in their careers where they didn't feel like they could bring their authentic self to work. And as I sat there listening, I thought, what can I do to influence this environment? Then and there I made a commitment. I will never make one of my team members feel like they cannot bring their authentic self to work. Just as the session was about to wrap, we were asked to do one final exercise. We were asked to complete a self-assessment of our social network. The facilitators handed each session participant a piece of paper and a pen. On the piece of paper was a simple 8 by 12 table. The first column listed people in our social network. For example, a supervisor, a neighbor, a recent visitor to our house. The top row contained several diversity attributes. For example, race, gender, sexual orientation, and age. We were asked to fill in the table. As I worked through my social network self-assessment, I was astonished by how little of the table I was able to complete. I thought, as a straight white male, was I unaware of my social network? Was I not really paying attention? Was I oblivious to how recent news events could be affecting my team members? And I became frustrated. How did this happen? Did I have tunnel vision in my transition from the military? Had I been too focused on my transition from the military to my career in civilian life? And had I taken for granted the key characteristic of our military's culture? If you too have tunnel vision, let me open your eyes. There are so many people with underlying pain and hurt, and they do not feel comfortable bringing it to work, and they cannot bring their authentic selves to work. I thought, am I contributing to this? I asked myself a series of questions. Am I engaging my social network at face value? Do I have an unconscious bias that is causing me to engage my social network at face value? Did my military experience, our bias for action, our bias for mission, contribute to this unconscious bias? Was this unconscious bias creating social network blind spots? And were these blind spots impairing my team members' abilities to bring their authentic selves to work? And mostly, was this impacting our team's ability to unleash our full potential? I recall my transition to the Fleet Marine Force. Having spent the last 9 months in Quantico, Virginia, learning warfighting tactics and preparing for my new role as a platoon commander, I was excited. I was anxious. I couldn't wait to enter the Fleet Marine Force, to train my platoon, and to lead those fearless warfighters into combat. But it was in this transition that a senior enlisted advisor reminded me of Theodore Roosevelt's quote, "Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care." As I reflected on my transition to the fleet, my transition to business, and my experience at KPMG's Day of Understanding, I thought, what can I share with transitioning service members to make their transition even more successful? First, understand that the military has equipped you with excellent leadership skills. Second, have faith that your transition will work out. You will do great. Be conscious that you have unconscious bias. Next, think about how you can leverage your excellent leadership skills to overcome your unconscious bias. Think about how you can leverage your leadership skills to encourage team members to bring their authentic selves to work. And finally, continue your service to our country, to our communities, and to your organization by joining your company's Veterans Resource Group and getting involved in your local community organizations like Atlanta. Thank you for your service, and Semper Fidelis.